Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Learning Project podcast. This is our last portion of our series that we're working on, Big Problems, Little People. I'm so excited about this. I want to make sure that you guys know, though, this series was actually developed by Sesame Street. And I was just really inspired by the videos that we're going to be looking at in our classroom that focus on the different scenarios that they have played out to help teachers, children identify their feelings, identify their needs, and just to give a really good outside perspective. And so I really want to give them a shout out. Sesame Street has constantly developing and growing and figuring out how they can really um, help children be successful and be great community leaders, and then also overcome those challenges that they really are struggling with. So I really am excited about this. And again, if you're interested in taking the actual training so that you can get Washington State professional developmental hours for early childhood education, it's also known as STARS. You could definitely do that. We're going to be rolling that out here pretty soon. So let me know if you would like to do that and contact us. That way we can get connected and go from there. You can always connect with us on Facebook, or you can go to our website, which is www.tlptraining.com. I would like to welcome our expert and our guest for this series of learning about homelessness and how it affects children, Miss Stephanie Nobles Beans. Thank you again for joining me on our last portion of our podcast.
Thank you for having me. This has been a very good, informative time where we can share and help our community and dedicated to helping provide community resources and to help our little people.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, let's dive right into it. So, we're going to be focused on three different levels. We are going to be focused on families, educators, and children. So, for this podcast, what I want you to do is I want you to think in your brain of three different sections, and I want you to filter out these areas and figure out exactly where they go. So, when we're looking at how do we coach or connect or mentor a person, I want you to think of a couple of areas. One, I want you to think about joint planning. This is a two-part plan. A lot of times when we're dealing with difficult situations, we need the partnership or the connection or the teamwork of a family that we're working with. And sometimes that could be the foster family, that could be the actual biological parents. Or the grandparents. I mean, anyone who is the primary caregiver for that child, you are going to need that joint planning. You're going to need that partnership. The next thing I want you to keep in mind as you are coming up with a coaching plan is the observational portion. How is this little one acting or reacting in class to others and maybe their environment due to the things that they're going through? The next thing that I want you to think about is an action plan or practice. What is it that we need to do continually so that this little one can be successful, and we can really build up the family together? The last part I want you to look at is reflection. So there's four different types of reflection out there. You could do like more internal reflection. You can look at reflection about your practices. You can look at you can also do different types of reflection about how you and your co-teacher are working together. Are you being consistent? Thinking about your conversation that you're having with the families or the guardian. That is really important, and that's something I want you to keep in mind as we talk about reflection. And actually, there's one more point that I want to bring up is the feedback. So how are we getting feedback? So are you working with your center director? Are you working with your coach or your mentor or the program supervisor? Who are you working with so that you can get that feedback and making sure that all of your practices are effective and making true change? So please keep those things in mind as we journey together and we talk about the three different areas that we need to try to connect as much as possible. So, Stephanie, can you tell me a little bit about how educators can provide resources out there in our community? We're probably going to talk a little bit more about local community. So we're looking at Spokane area, but there's so many different areas out there and people listening to this. But we want to definitely shout out those organizations that are really doing some amazing things. And I would definitely love to hear about what you found on your side and who you actually work with to help families overcome different challenges.
Well, first of all, I want to give a website which gives a plethora of information, its resources for homeless, and it's SpokaneCares.org. And when you pull up this site, it talks about the statistics of the homeless population here in our city. But I love this page because it has so many local organizations that we can refer people to, like the Chas Clinic. There's
Mhm.
Crosswalk.
Mhm.
There's Daybreak Youth Services. There's the Family Promise of Spokane, even Goodwill Industries on here. And when you go to each particular piece on this website, it's almost like little business cards
Mhm.
that you can click on, and it will tell you the different things that are provided with each resource. I mean, SNAP is on here. St. Margaret's Shelter is on
Mhm.
here. So there's so it's on and on and on and on. So I think this is a wonderful site that people can go to
Mhm.
and get the information that they need. The other community resource is I love the YWCA.
Mm.
They
Yeah.
have uh, plenty of resources. Not everybody has gone to the YWCA, but I think it's a place where community resources, there's counseling, there's legal resources, there's health resources, phone resources, and what I love about them, they even have children resources, because we're
Awesome.
talking about children. Children need help, and parents may not know what to do in particular.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
this organization has a crisis line, and they have other resources as well, because what we're trying to do in our community is to make sure that families are taken care of. And
Yeah.
when you have a little one and you're in crisis, I love the Vanessa Behan Crisis Shelter. You can even take your little ones there,
Yeah.
drop your children off if you just need to have a breather.
Yes.
I think that is one of the most wonderful things, because when you're in a homeless position, emotions get all flustered.
Yeah.
And the children are already subjected to trauma, and then being re-traumatized
Yeah.
because mom is upset, dad's upset. And so I know that in the community, we have those resources to help the families. And like I say, to have the primary prevention, to go upstream and help
Mhm.
when there's potential risk factors in our community. So I think it's good that we have those resources, and those resources cover both families and children.
I
That's
like that.
what I like about the Spokane resource that I just gave, and then the YWCA has those resources too, because we definitely want to help support families strengthen and become healthy, and have
Mhm.
children
Mhm.
in school. Because I was looking at a statistic not too long ago. It says when children are exposed to trauma, they are 2 times more likely to have learning disabilities.
Yeah.
The little
Yeah.
brains just can't function.
Yeah.
You know, children. I read somewhere it said that homeless children are 2 times as likely to repeat a grade and to be
Mm.
diagnosed with a learning disability.
Wow.
The impact of homelessness for our babies. And so sometimes we think kids are just acting up, just being bad, but excuse me, but it's not. They
Yeah.
are being mentally affected by the things that are going on at home.
Yeah.
So I was even thinking, I read an article where even when people become homeless, we
Mhm.
never think about the pets that they lose.
Yes.
You can't take pets into most homeless shelters.
Yep.
It
Mhm.
totally disrupts the family routines. It messes these kids up. So children and
Yeah.
families who live in shelters, they need to make adjustments, whatever they need to do, uh,
Yes.
to get the family back reunited together. And it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. Just like we were talking about in our last episode about fathers being denied going into shelters and the
Yeah.
families being split up. So
Ugh.
hopefully the resources that we give out will help where families can stay together. Salvation Army is one who
Mhm.
takes the whole family. They take
Mhm.
everybody. So
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
You know what? You brought up something that I didn't even think about. And I think that, children losing pets and things like that are very, 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 it can be very traumatic. And even for an adult that's been in a homeless situation, when they lose an animal that's been with them and is by their side 24/7 and, doesn't judge them, it is so hard.
Yep.
Um, it is so hard for people, and it's like I'm losing a child, it's like losing a family member. And so, we have to definitely remember that. One of the things I want to jump into is when we're focusing on children and we're looking at all of these different resources, there is another website I want to share with you guys. It is called the Center on Social and Emotional Foundations for Early Learning. Now, I don't think this is the only website that should be mentioned, but I want to start with this one because it's going to be one of the websites that we actually focus on in our training. So I just want to let you know. So this is by Vanderbilt, which is a very well known university that has focused a lot on social and emotional skills and development and resources for children. So there's two folds on this. So this is great for children because they have a section that's called practical strategies. And in the practical strategies area, you're going to find scripted stories that actually have different situations that may go on and how can that child deal with that. One of the things that we spoke about in our last podcast is the reaction that children have when they're in homeless situations. Sometimes they'll start to act out in class, or they will be shy, or they will start having like maybe little quirks or ticks and things that they will do. What I want to focus on is if they're having a lot of social and emotional issues and they're starting to like maybe show some anger, or they're starting to show low self-esteem. This is a great place to start. A couple of things I want to remind you about this is when you're looking at the resource area, there are tons of things that you can print off. They have social and emotional charts. They have charts to help kids actually identify what they feel. A lot of times people only go with the three, which is happy, sad, mad, but there's so many other feelings that children have. And so we need to be able to tap into that. We have solution cards. So like, if someone's doing something to you and you're not sure what to do, what can you do? There's like 8 different options for them, and it gives them a visual, and then you can actually talk about that. I think a lot of times we are just speaking about things and kids are actually not able to like actually understand what we're saying, and they need to have a visual that they can look at to help them process what we're saying and how we can make that connection. So it's kind of like that conversation and the text, how do we connect them together, so that the children can really succeed and grow and develop. And then they have tools to help develop behavior and support plans. So they have observation cards, they have different case studies, which I think are great because then it will give you time to actually think about what you're reading and maybe kids that have the same situations going on, and how can you help provide effective intervention for them. When we look at the teacher side, I want you to think about your reflection, okay? We need to take time to reflect on what we are doing, what we're saying, how we're interacting with families. Because a lot of times, families, and I think you can agree with this too, Stephanie, a lot of times people will struggle with telling you I'm homeless, because the first thing they're thinking of, you're going to call CPS on me, you know? And so, you know, there's a fear there of partnership, and it's kind of ironic because educators are supposed to be people that can help you, but a lot of times people feel like they're there to, you know, they're going to turn on you, and that could be really hurtful for the family and build a lot of mistrust. And so always take time to reflect, you know, reflect on how you are interacting with the children, how you're interacting with the family, how you're interacting with your co-teacher or another teacher. You know, think about maybe ideas and things that they are saying. If you don't have any of those pieces in place, you're going to be going into the situations very blind. All of the different resources that Stephanie had talked about, you know, do you have a resource list in your classroom? You know, if someone says they're going through something, can you pull something out, highlight it, and give it to them? Do you know your community enough to be able to speak about the resources that are truly there? And a lot of educators, we don't know what it is. We kind of leave it up to maybe like resource people or, you know, the director, but get involved with it and don't just be a bystander. Be proactive. Those are the things that are going to help you grow as an educator and be more confident in what you do.
And the other thing I'd like to interject is that
Yeah,
we need
please.
to look through the lens of trauma. I
Mm,
think when people uh, educate, I call them the three E's: when we empower, when we educate, and when we equip
yeah,
one another as educators, we can see through the lens of trauma and maybe pick up if something is going on with a specific child.
yeah,
And not, I always tell it, don't prejudge, don't jump to the assumption. We need to do our homework. We need
yeah,
to investigate more. It's not like, oh, I've got to call CPS and, oh God, this is something going on and this child is doing something. I think as we come down to the level of children and begin that courageous conversation with them,
yeah,
and then be able to even approach the parents who, just like you say, they may be facing homelessness and they don't trust anybody, because the
yeah,
first thing that they're going to say, you're going to take my child. But
yeah,
they don't know, I tell people, they don't know the sacred story, they don't
yeah.
know the journey. And how we do that is we ask the questions. We don't assume, we ask
Mhm,
questions and
mhm.
not prejudge someone. They may have lost their job, or
Yeah,
like you said, sickness, illness, divorce, so many factors that contribute to homelessness that we don't know that people are going through.
mhm,
And so
mhm.
we need to sit down and say, okay, let's talk. How can I help as the teacher? How can I help as an ally? I tell people, I think being an advocate and an ally to people who are going through trauma is the most uh, courageous thing that we can do, because
Absolutely.
they're already hurting, they're already afraid. How can we intervene,
Yeah,
increase the effectiveness of programs, improve participant outcomes with our parents, and facilitate recovery?
yeah,
We won't continue to be homeless. What
yeah.
can we do? What can
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you hit that right on the head. And it goes great into our next segment here, which is talking about sample coaching conversations. So when we're talking about joint planning, one of the conversations that you could have with the family is, our plan is for what you are, our plan is this for what you're going through. Um, since the last time we were together, you know, this is what we've seen. What are your thoughts? You know, asking people about what are their thoughts. If they're saying, you know what, right now we're going from home to home, and, you know, I would love for you to be able to say, you know what, we're going to go to grandma's house on Wednesdays and Thursdays. We're going to go to uncle's on, you know, uncle's on Fridays and Saturday, because sometimes kids just need to know what is going on. And so being able to create a joint plan for the families, if a child is dealing with some social and emotional things and they're really struggling with anger, really finding practical tools that they can get in their hand, whether it be, you know, they have like different calm down bottles where they'll have like different kinds of gels and things like that within the bottle that will allow children to like take some breathing exercises, and they'll be able to use that as a way to calm themselves down. Maybe it's setting up little Walkmans and putting like very soothing music in a little calm down caddy. I used to have one in my classes long ago, and in the calm down caddy it had like a little um, calm down bottle, and it had like a sensory bottle basically, and it had different things in there. It was just really soothing to look at. Soothing music that they can listen to in their little Walkmans. Play-Doh that has lavender, if your state allows it. I think that is key. A lot of teachers don't make Play-Doh, but I'm telling you, this is the one thing you want to do is make that Play-Doh and put it in there, and then let them know, like, if you're feeling some kind of way or if you need something, you can go over to this Calm Down Caddy and you can grab whatever you want. It could be a teddy bear, it could be a blanket, it could be a weighted blanket. There's so many different things that you can add into your classroom to help a child learn those that self-soothing process. The next thing that you want to do is when they are doing maybe some of those transitions and they're having some different issues, observe. Let's try this. That's a conversation starter. Let's try this. I've seen that we've done this in the past. Maybe we should try this to see how it will work, and let the families know that, this is going to be trial and error until we find what works for your little one. Also think about reflecting on each time that you do something, you do that observation, you do that action, observe, take time to reflect on how did that work for that child? Because there may be things that work great for one child and you may need to do something for another child. And then also ask the child how they feel when they do that. Because when you ask a lot of open-ended questions and reflexive questions to a child, it's going to give them the power to think about what they feel, how they feel, and then they're giving you feedback, which is that last point on what they experienced. And so, as educators, we are required to make judgment calls and say what is right and wrong, answers, different things like that. So much that I think our brains are completely trained to that, and our brains need to be trained a little bit different, and we need to alter our thinking so that we can think about how can we help develop our families, our children, and yourself as an educator. Is there anything you want to add in there, Stephanie?
Well, all I can say, this has been a very good podcast, and I think it's very informative, not only for educators but for the listening audience who
Yes.
may be having some issues of homelessness, or they may know someone who is in a homeless situation,
Mm-hmm.
and that they can say, you know what, this podcast gave us some information. Uh,
Yeah.
I think having information in your hand is powerful
Yep.
because it gives you, it empowers you to say, you know what, there are some resources out there. There
Mm-hmm.
are some educators who do care,
Yeah.
because the fact is, homelessness is an issue, not just in other parts of the country, but right here in Spokane. And I
Yeah.
think as educators, we have an obligation, we have a responsibility to help those less fortunate than ourselves, and not just put a label on them saying, "Oh, they're homeless because of XYZ." We don't know the sacred story, and I think it's important
Mm.
that we ask not only the important questions, but also have some solutions.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. That's you guys. I hope you got a lot from this too. This was really awesome. I'm super glad that we're doing this. I'm sad that it's ending, but I want you to know you can reach out to Stephanie Nobles Beans on her website, www.steffienoblesbeans.com. She is a great speaker. She goes and speaks everywhere. She does workshops. She's going to be opening up this new class that's going to be focusing on how to build a transitional home. So if it's something that you're interested in, definitely reach out to her as soon as possible. And as usual, you can reach me at The Learning Project. You can reach me on Facebook, or you can go to our website, www.tlptraining.com. I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out to make a difference in your viewpoint and just take time to reflect on what you actually just learned. The Learning Project is not just about children learning. The Learning Project is about the teachers learning about themselves so they'll feel empowered to teach and push forward in this hard journey. Anybody who knows in early childhood education, in any educational field, it is hard what we do. There are times where we feel like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. This is not worth it. but then something inside of us tells us that we can do this. It is worth it. These kids are worth it. And I want you to know that the more you invest in yourself, you're giving yourself more ammo, you're giving yourself more strength, and you're giving yourself more power. Knowledge is power, you guys. I just want to say thank you so much for listening to one of our first series on Big Problems, Little People. I am your trainer, visionary, host, Stephanie Courtney. Again, thank you guys so much for being change makers. Bye.